You're listening to the Culips English Podcast. To download the study guide for this episode, which includes the transcript, detailed vocabulary explanations, real-world examples, and a quiz, visit our website, culips.com. CULIPS.com. Hey everybody, my name is Andrew.
And I'm Suzanne.
And you're listening to Culips. Hello, Suzanne.
Hey, Andrew. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. You know, I went away for the weekend to New York City.
Oh, yeah, that's right. How was that?
That was great. I got to see the Mets play baseball, and they won. I got to see some home runs. That was pretty cool. Yeah.
Really cool.
That's always fun. That was a really great experience to go back to my hometown.
How did you get there? Do you fly? Do you drive? Do you take the train, the bus? There's many ways to go to New York.
Yes, there are. We drove down and then drove back up. The way down was a little longer because we stopped for dinner, and we didn't get in until like 2 a.m. So we were a little slow on the drive, but it was fun. Road trips are always fun.
Well, good thing New York is the city that never sleeps, right? Even if you arrive at 2 a.m., it's not really a big deal.
Yeah, the metro, the subway is still going.
Beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, Suzanne, today we are going to do a Chatterbox episode. And for all the listeners out there that don't know, Chatterbox is our series where we have completely 100% unscripted, natural conversations. And we let everybody listen in and do some eavesdropping. And today, Suzanne, we have a serious topic to talk about.
Yes, we do.
It is homelessness.
Yes.
But just before we talk about homelessness, and I think this will be an interesting discussion, I want to let everybody know that the study guide for this episode, which includes tons of good stuff like a transcript, a quiz, detailed vocabulary explanations, examples, even some prompts for journaling or speaking. That study guide is available on our website, culips.com. So if you'd like to study along with the guide, just head on over and give it a download. Okay, Suzanne, homelessness.
Yeah.
Maybe we should start with a very basic definition of homelessness. What is it?
Yeah, well, it's quite self-explanatory as far as the definition goes, that it really is when someone doesn't have a place to live. They are without a home. So they might sleep on the streets or in a shelter. Sometimes it's when people are between homes. Maybe they lost their home. But it usually means someone who, for economic purposes, does not have a place to live.
Right, exactly. They just don't have a place to live. Now, Suzanne, if you had to rank homelessness as a problem in Canada on a scale from 1 to 10, how big of a problem do you think it is?
So if 1 is low and 10 is high?
Yeah, 1 is a perfect paradise where there's no homeless people, and 10 is just a really bad situation. It's a really visible, intense problem. What would you say?
Maybe 6?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think homelessness is a pretty big issue in Canada, unfortunately.
Yeah. I definitely noticed that in Montreal. It's a bigger city, and I notice when I go downtown For example, I do see people on the streets, sleeping on the streets or in the metro.
Yeah, that is right. You do tend to see people sleeping in the metro, on the train sometimes, or in the stations, on the benches that they have,
Yep.
especially in the winter, right? Because it gets really, really cold in Montreal during the winter.
Yes.
And homeless people have nowhere to go often. Of course, there are shelters and special facilities that are built to temporarily house homeless people, but often there's not enough beds, or sometimes these shelters are affiliated with religions and they want you to participate in some ceremonies or something like this, which some people are opposed to, so they won't even stay in these shelters. And because of the extreme cold in the winter, you have to find shelter somewhere, right? So this makes people go into the metro stations. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm wondering if there are more homeless people in the US than Canada, just because of even the temperature, right? Just because of or that they're more apparent. Maybe I see more people outside on the street more in New York than I do in Montreal, just because of the population. There's more people, right? There are more people in New York, and it's a bit warmer as well.
Yeah, well, I've never been to San Francisco, unfortunately. I would love to go, but I heard that recently the homeless population in San Francisco is really hitting a problem level because of that.
Okay.
Really because of two main reasons. The first reason is the weather. It's very temperate, it's warm. So, yeah, I mean, if you have enough money to buy a bus ticket from,
Sure.
I mean, for what, $150 maybe, you could buy a bus ticket across America, right? So,
Right.
if you were, say, living in Boston or New York, a cold city in the winter, hey, why not go to San Francisco? It's going to be warmer. So I think this is the first reason. The second reason is that it's a very liberal city. The government isn't actively trying to kick the homeless people out of the city. And there's also a lot of money it's a rich place, so maybe the services are better. So yeah, I know maybe you're on the opposite end of the country from San Francisco, Suzanne, but I think this does play a decision in where large homeless populations are, is the climate.
Yes, I agree. And I also think, too, it has to do with the cost of living. Like in New York, the cost of living is so high. And in San Francisco, it's maybe even higher. Like just
Yeah.
the cost of owning, renting an apartment is very, very high. So it's possible that it forces people out of of living situations because it prices them out. It's just too much. And they might be left on the street or in those situations.
It's very sad. It's a very sad issue, and one that's really difficult to solve.
Yes.
And Suzanne, I'm wondering if we could maybe talk a little bit about some of the causes of homelessness. I think one of the major causes, actually two major causes of homelessness, the first is addiction, and the second is mental health. And I'm wondering if we could talk about those for a second. So let's start with addiction. Why or how could addiction lead to homelessness?
Wow. Well, a lot of times when someone is addicted to a substance, for example, they might take any money or income that they receive and put it towards maintaining that addiction, right? So their income isn't being used for food or shelter. And that could cause them to lose their status as far as their rent or their payments are concerned. And then that can force them out on the street, because
Exactly.
any money that they receive is going toward feeding that addiction.
And this is a huge issue in Vancouver, a city that's close to my hometown, where there's a whole area downtown called the Downtown East Side that has a huge homeless population. And if any
Oh,
of our
wow.
listeners have visited Vancouver, they may have seen the Downtown East Side, which can be pretty intense and maybe a little bit scary if you're not used to it. And a huge issue here is addiction. So people getting addicted to drugs that are just controlling. They control your whole life, right? The
Right.
high from these drugs is so powerful that you don't care about anything except getting high again. So it doesn't matter if you don't have a home, doesn't matter if you don't have a job. You just need to find that next fix. And so one way that the city of Vancouver has tried to address this is by having a safe injection site
Okay.
where people can actually go and use drugs in a supervised way. It's a government controlled center. And so actually I'm not an expert. I don't know if this has been effective, but I think definitely in terms of preventing death, it's been useful, the safe injection site.
Yeah, and I think like some cities in the U.S., like there's a lot going on as far as opioid addiction, which has caused some people to become homeless because all of their money and energy has gone to addiction. And gaining these substances and maintaining their high, like you said, a lot of people are in emotional or physical pain. And so in order to alleviate that pain or take away that pain, they medicate it with these substances and then as a result become addicted and as a result can become homeless, lose their job or their family. Because, you're not just taking away the resource of your money, you're also taking away your mental capacity, right? Your focus, your time. So you're also not available for work, available for your family. And this can, cause you to be alienated and on the street. One thing that some cities are doing, shelters and such, are giving a replacement to opioids. It's still addictive, but it's a safer, less strong, more legal sort of way of giving painkillers in a sense. And it helps regulate that imbalance. So that's one thing, but it's definitely an epidemic that's happening in the US for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Especially fentanyl, a drug called fentanyl is really had a huge effect on Canada and the USA. And one of the consequences of this increased drug use is homelessness and also many other issues that we won't get into right now. But another, I think, root cause of homelessness is mental health and the failure of the governments in North America to address properly mental health. So I think this is really heartbreaking, actually, when you see somebody living on the street and they're sick, right?
Right.
They're broken. They have a problem, a health problem. But we as society just say, oh, that guy's crazy, you
Right.
know?
And we'd sort of dismiss it.
And we just leave them to live on the street.
Yeah.
And it's super sad. I think many surveys have been done, and they find like a huge percentage of homeless people actually have mental health issues. And so instead of living on the streets, we should be providing medical services, medical care for these people. But it's a hard sell. A lot of people don't maybe accept that this is a real legitimate health issue, or they don't want to support with their tax dollars this type of care. I'm not exactly sure why, but in the end, it's very heartbreaking, in my opinion.
Absolutely. It's almost as though we are choosing which person is more beneficial to our society. And we don't realize that everyone is beneficial. Everyone has something that they could be offering the world. And by sort of just leaving them to be without offering aid, we're only as strong as our weakest link. And I think if someone is in pain or hurting, it's important that there are programs, counseling, resources that can help them and can bring them to a point that they could function and be, living to their best potential instead of their worst potential. I think people see it as separate from them, but in fact, it's not, right? We're all really a society that's connected. And if someone is hurting, we actually are hurting too. And we don't really make that connection enough, I think, in our government. So yeah, it is heartbreaking.
Yeah, something that we need to work harder on. Suzanne, I know we could talk about this issue for hours, probably. It's a very big and complicated issue, but actually it's hard to squeeze it all into 15 minutes. But I'm really curious about our listeners. We have listeners from all over the world.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the issue of homelessness is different in each country. So I would be very interested to hear what homelessness is like in your country. How big of an issue is it? And feel free to get in contact with us. Probably the best way to do this is on our Facebook page, facebook.com/facebook.com/QLIPS Just leave a comment under the posting for this episode and let's start a discussion. Let's see what homelessness is like around the world. I'm hoping that the situation is better than it is in Canada and other countries.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Andrew. So that about wraps up today's episode. So thank you guys for spending your time listening to us. And remember to visit our website, QLIPS.com, QLIPS.com. And if you want to learn more about how you can study with us and improve your English, visit us at QLIPS.com and check out our study guides as well.
Yes, that is a very good idea. All right, guys, that's it for us. We'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Do you like listening to QLIPS? If so, please show your support by leaving QLIPS a 5-star rating and a review on iTunes or Stitcher. This helps new listeners find the show. So don't delay. Rate and review today.